Emma Walker had long stopped thinking of her life as something finished or complete. To her, it felt like a crumpled draft, a story someone had written carelessly, crossed out in red ink, and thrown into the trash without a second thought. She was 34, living in Toronto, yet she felt older, worn down by years that had passed without leaving anything solid behind. No home of her own, no partner, no warm shoulder to lean on during moments of weakness. Just a small rented apartment on the outskirts of the city and a constant, exhausting fight to stay afloat. Every morning began the same way. The alarm clock screamed with merciless, metallic persistence, tearing Emma out of shallow sleep. She opened her eyes and, as always, felt the familiar weight press down on her chest. Disappointment, heavy and unmoving. It arrived before her thoughts, before reason, before hope. She lay still for a few seconds, staring at the ceiling, imagining another version of herself in some parallel universe, a version who woke up next to someone she loved, a version who owned her own apartment, drove a clean, modern car, and spent winters not buried under debt and silence, but somewhere warm, near the ocean. But reality returned the moment she turned her head. Outside the window stretched a dull winter street, wrapped in pale gray twilight. Snow-covered sidewalks, anonymous figures hurrying toward bus stops, faces hidden in scarves, each person absorbed in their own quiet struggle. Invisible people, just like her. Emma sighed and pushed herself out of bed. "Lily," she called softly, walking toward the small bedroom. "Time to wake up, sweetheart." Lily was 8 years old, Emma's daughter, her anchor, her reason to keep breathing when everything else felt unbearable. The girl stirred under the blankets, her red curls spilling across the pillow like fire against the white fabric. 5 more minutes," she murmured. Emma smiled despite herself. That smile was real. It always was when it came to her daughter. Breakfast passed in mechanical motions. Cereal bowls, toast, checking the backpack, tying shoelaces, wrapping scarves around small shoulders. Emma moved automatically, conserving energy the way divers conserve oxygen underwater. They stepped outside into the biting Canadian cold. "Watch your step, Lily," Emma called out, too loudly. Several passers-by flinched and turned around. Emma froze, instantly aware of the sharpness of her own voice. Heat flooded her face. She lowered her head, embarrassed. Her hearing aid, a small, fragile device tucked behind her ear, suddenly let out a thin, piercing squeal like an injured bird. Emma's fingers flew to it instinctively, adjusting it with trembling care. The thought of losing it made her heart race. She remembered the month of absolute silence 2 years ago, when the old device had finally died. 30 days without sound. 30 days of reading lips, guessing emotions, living behind thick glass while the world moved on without her. She had starved herself of everything unnecessary just to save enough money for a replacement. "Mama," Lily said suddenly, looking up at her. Snowflakes melted on her eyelashes. "Did you know Sophie got a new phone yesterday? Her dad bought it for her. It's pink and huge." Emma caught only part of the sentence, focusing on Lily's lips more than the sounds themselves. "A phone?" she repeated quietly. "Yes. Can I have one too, please?" Emma stopped walking. She crouched in front of her daughter and brushed the snow from her hair. "Not right now, honey. And you don't really need one yet. Teachers already say kids get distracted too easily." "I'd be the best student in the world," Lily insisted earnestly. "I'd do everything you ask." Emma laughed softly, though something inside her tightened painfully. "So my love depends on a phone now?" she teased gently, pinching Lily's nose. Lily instantly looked guilty and pressed herself against her mother's coat. "No, I love you anyway. I just want to be like everyone else." Those words hit harder than any accusation. Like everyone else. Emma swallowed and stood up. She would have given anything to make that happen, to give her daughter the same childhood others seem to have so effortlessly. But money disappeared faster than snow in March. At the school entrance, Lily ran off to join her classmates. Emma stood on the steps for a moment longer. The voices around her reached her as a distant, blurry roar, like waves breaking far away. For a brief second, she imagined herself standing by the ocean. Then the illusion faded. The bus ride into downtown Toronto was crowded and damp, heavy with the smell of wet coats and cheap perfume. Emma clutched the handrail and stared at nothing, mentally preparing herself for another long shift. She worked as a dishwasher in an upscale restaurant near the financial district, a place called the Blue Marlin. Elegant, expensive, untouchable. The kitchen, hidden behind polished dining rooms and crystal glasses, was her sanctuary. There was always music playing there, live jazz on weekends, which Emma didn't truly hear but felt through vibrations in the floor. And the guests, dressed in confidence and wealth, created the comforting illusion that life could be beautiful, even if you were only watching it through spotless glassware. She was tying the strings of her freshly starched apron when the restaurant manager, Nadia, nearly collided with her in the narrow corridor. "Emma, where have you been?" Nadia barked, cupping her hands around her mouth and shouting directly toward Emma's ear. "The owner's been asking for you all morning." The sudden vibration sent a sharp jolt through Emma's hearing aid. She winced, then forced herself to remain calm. "I walked my daughter to school," she replied evenly. "I'm not late." "Not late?" Nadia scoffed, checking her watch. "If we ran this place on your not late, we'd sink faster than the Titanic." She stormed off, still shouting orders at unseen staff. Emma exhaled slowly. She knew Nadia wasn't cruel, just exhausted, wrapped in schedules, inspections, and endless pressure. Still, the words stung. Moments later, Emma found herself standing in front of the heavy oak doors leading to the administrative office. Why would the owner want to see her? Her heart pounded as she knocked. "Come in," a confident voice answered. Inside was another world entirely. Leather furniture, velvet curtains, the subtle scent of expensive perfume. Victoria Reynolds, the restaurant's owner, sat behind a massive desk, studying something on her computer screen. She gestured silently for Emma to sit. Emma lowered herself into the chair, marveling at its softness. "If I'm about to be fired," she thought, "at least I got to sit here once." "You look tense, Emma," Victoria said, finally, removing her glasses. "Did something happen?" Emma shook her head. Victoria smiled knowingly. "Relax, I didn't call you here to scold you." She leaned forward slightly. "I called you to thank you." Emma blinked. "You work with exceptional dedication," Victoria continued. "The kitchen hasn't been this clean since we opened. Because of that, your salary will increase by 15%, starting today." Emma's breath caught. "And," Victoria added, pulling a thick envelope from her drawer, "this is for a new hearing aid." Emma stared at the envelope, stunned. "I've been told your current device is failing," Victoria said gently. "This should cover a modern, reliable model. Consider it an investment in my best employee." For a long moment, Emma couldn't move. Then Victoria stood, walked over, and placed the envelope into Emma's apron herself. "Now go," she said firmly. "We have a busy season ahead." Emma left the office feeling as though wings had grown behind her back. For the first time in years, Hope didn't feel foolish. The new hearing aid changed more than Emma's ability to hear. It changed the way the world touched her. Sounds no longer arrived as dull, distorted shadows. They came alive, crisp, layered, demanding attention. The scrape of cutlery, the low murmur of conversations, the hiss of steam rising from pots in the kitchen, everything suddenly felt too loud, too close, as if the world had rushed back without asking permission. Emma had to learn how to exist in it again. At first, the noise overwhelmed her. She flinched when plates clattered. She covered her ears when laughter burst too suddenly behind her. But gradually, her body adjusted, and with each passing day, she felt less like a ghost drifting through other people's lives. For Lily, the change was immediate. "You hear me!" Lily exclaimed one evening, standing in the doorway of their apartment. "You really hear me now!" Emma laughed as her daughter tested her mercilessly, whispering from behind doors, calling her name from the kitchen, giggling when Emma turned around instantly. "I always heard you," Emma said, pulling Lily into a hug, "just differently." That night, as Lily slept, Emma sat at the small kitchen table with a cup of tea and allowed herself something she hadn't done in years. She planned. A better school backpack, new winter boots, maybe, just maybe, a small phone by the end of the year. The thought made her smile, though she quickly pushed it aside, afraid to let hope grow too bold. Hope had betrayed her before. At the Blue Marlin, preparations for the upcoming wedding took over the entire restaurant. It was not just any wedding. The bride, Charlotte Whitmore, was the daughter of one of Canada's most influential real estate magnates. The groom, Daniel Harrington, was a rising figure in international finance, young, wealthy, and dangerously charismatic. The event was scheduled for Saturday night. 500 guests, live orchestra, media presence. Every surface polished until it reflected light like glass. "This wedding could make or break us," Nadia announced during the staff briefing, her voice slicing through the room like a blade. "Every plate must be perfect, every glass spotless, no mistakes." Emma stood near the back, listening carefully. As the details unfolded, a strange unease crept over her. She couldn't explain it. There was nothing obviously wrong. And yet, something about the names, the scale, the secrecy surrounding the event made her chest tighten. Later that day, Victoria pulled Emma aside. "I want you working closer to the main floor during the wedding," she said. "You're reliable and discreet." Emma nodded, though a flicker of nervousness sparked inside her. Closer to the guests meant closer to the noise, to chaos. But she didn't argue. She never did. 2 days before the wedding, Emma was stacking crystal glasses in the storage room when she heard a voice she hadn't heard in over 15 years. "Emma?" Her hands froze mid-motion. She turned slowly. The man standing in the doorway wore an expensive tailored suit, his dark hair neatly combed, his posture confident, almost arrogant. Yet his eyes were unmistakable. Michael Reed, her first love, the boy who had once promised her the world, the man who had vanished without explanation the day she lost her hearing. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The air between them felt thick, electrified. "I didn't know you worked here," Michael said finally, stepping closer. Emma's heart hammered violently against her ribs. "I didn't know you'd be here," she replied, her voice steady despite the storm inside her. "I'm handling security logistics for the wedding," he said. "When I saw your name on the staff list, I wasn't sure it was you." Emma swallowed. Memories crashed over her like a tidal wave. High school hallways, shared headphones, whispered dreams, his lips forming promises she had believed without question. "You disappeared," she said quietly. "You never came back." Michael's jaw tightened. "I tried." She laughed bitterly. "You tried?" "I didn't know how to reach you," he said. "After the accident, everything changed. Your family moved. You stopped answering messages." Emma stared at him. "You think I stopped answering?" Her voice trembled despite her efforts. "I couldn't hear my own phone ring." Silence stretched between them. "I was young," Michael said at last. "I was stupid, and I regret it every day." Emma turned away, blinking rapidly. Regret didn't pay rent. Regret didn't hold a crying child at 3 a.m. Regret didn't replace 15 years of loneliness. "You should go," she said. "I have work to do." Michael hesitated, then nodded. "I'm glad you're okay," he said softly before leaving. Emma leaned against the shelf, her knees weak. The past had found her, and it wasn't done with her yet. That evening, as Emma prepared to leave, she noticed something unusual. In the back corridor near the private storage lockers, 2 men in dark suits were speaking in hushed tones. Their voices dropped the moment they noticed her presence. One of them smiled too quickly. "Staff aren't supposed to be here," he said. Emma frowned. "This is my section." The man glanced at his companion, then back at her. "Not tonight." Something cold settled in Emma's stomach. She stepped back, nodding, and walked away, but not before noticing the faint chemical smell clinging to the air. Bitter, sharp, unfamiliar. That night, as she lay in bed, the sounds of the city drifting through her window, Emma couldn't sleep. Michael's face haunted her thoughts. So did the locked door, and the strange certainty that the wedding wouldn't end the way everyone expected. The wedding day arrived wrapped in crystal light and false perfection. From early morning, the blue marlin pulsed like a living organism. Florists carried towering arrangements of white orchids and pale roses. Technicians tested microphones and adjusted lights until the dining hall shimmered like a palace carved from glass. Emma arrived early, her nerves tightly coiled. She checked her hearing aid twice before stepping inside. "Focus," she told herself, "just get through the day." Lily sat in a small staff lounge with a coloring book, headphones resting loosely around her neck. Emma had no one else to leave her with, and Victoria had reluctantly agreed, as long as Lily stayed out of sight. "Don't move from here," Emma said gently, crouching in front of her daughter. "And if anything feels strange, you call me immediately." Lily nodded solemnly. "I will, I promise." Emma kissed her forehead and forced herself to walk away. By evening, the guests arrived. Men in tailored suits, women in dresses that shimmered like liquid silver. Laughter flowed as freely as the champagne. From her position near the service corridor, Emma observed everything. She noticed the bride's tight smile, beautiful but strained. The groom, Daniel Harrington, moved through the room with effortless charm, yet his eyes kept darting toward the exits. Security staff lined the walls, and among them, Michael. Their eyes met briefly. Something unspoken passed between them. Concern, recognition, unfinished truth. As the first course was served, Emma caught a scent that made her stomach drop. That same sharp, chemical bitterness. Her heart began to race. She followed the smell down the corridor toward the private preparation kitchen reserved for the bridal table. The door was slightly ajar. Inside, a man stood over a tray of champagne flutes, one of the dark-suited men from before. Emma froze. She watched as he slipped a small vial from his pocket and tilted it carefully, letting a clear liquid drip into several glasses. Her breath caught in her throat. Poison! She stepped back instinctively, and her foot brushed against a metal bucket. The clang echoed loudly. The man turned, their eyes locked. For a split second, neither moved. Then he lunged toward her. Emma ran. Her heart pounded violently as she sprinted down the corridor, shouting, louder than she realized, "Stop! Call security!" But the music swallowed her voice. She turned a corner and nearly collided with Michael. "They're poisoning the drinks," she cried, grabbing his arm. Michael's expression hardened instantly. "Where?" Before she could answer, chaos erupted behind them. A scream, a crash. In the staff lounge, Lily had grown restless. She wandered closer to the hallway, clutching her stuffed rabbit, when she saw a man stumble out of a door, pale, sweating, his hands trembling. Her eyes widened. "Mister, are you okay?" The man collapsed. Staff screamed. Someone yelled for an ambulance. The room exploded into confusion. Michael took control with terrifying efficiency. He shouted orders into his radio, blocking exits, calling police. Security swarmed the area. Emma stood frozen, shaking, watching as medics rushed in. She suddenly realized Lily was missing. "Lily?" she whispered. Panic seized her. She ran through the crowd, calling her daughter's name, her voice breaking. She found Lily crouched near the wall, eyes wide but dry, gripping her rabbit tightly. "I'm here," Lily said softly. "I didn't move far." Emma dropped to her knees and wrapped her arms around her, sobbing openly. "You saved people," Michael said quietly behind her. "Both of you." The truth unraveled quickly. The poisoned glasses were intended for the groom. A business rival, desperate and reckless, had planned to turn a wedding into a public tragedy. The bride, shaking and pale, hugged Emma tightly. "You saved my husband," she whispered. "You saved all of us." By midnight, the wedding was over, not in celebration, but in stunned silence. Police lights painted the snow outside in blue and red. Weeks passed. Life settled into something softer. The restaurant received national attention, not for luxury, but for courage. Emma was promoted. A larger apartment followed. And one evening, as autumn leaves danced across the sidewalk, Michael stood at her door holding a small paper bag. "I'm not asking for forgiveness," he said. "I just don't want to disappear again." Emma studied his face. Older, humbler, honest. "You can stay," she said finally, "but slowly." He smiled. That was enough. On Lily's birthday, Emma handed her a small box. Inside lay a pink phone. Lily gasped, "Mama!" Emma laughed through happy tears, like everyone else. That night, Emma stood by the window, listening to the city breathe. For the first time, silence no longer felt like a cage. It felt like peace.